Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of Wardle Restorations, and we're once again working on the tank wagon. Now I'm filming this intro the same time as I'm filming the outro from the previous video, so I wouldn't have seen any of your feedback yet, but if there is anything then hopefully we can address it in the next video. So what we're going to do today is we're going to carry on, as I say, with the tank wagon. We've got lots and lots of progress again in this one. The work here at the end, the white lines you'll see here, will be explained shortly. So what we'll do is we're going to roll the intro, and I'll pass you over to Adam, who's going to explain a little bit more about how we got these metal straps off and the mysterious white lines at the end of the tank. But as always guys, if you do enjoy these videos, please do hit the thumbs up. Don't forget to check out our Colne Valley Railway Wagon Group Facebook page. There'll be a link to that in the description, and of course any feedback, please do leave it in the comment section down below. But other than that, let's roll the intros and let's see what we're getting up to today.
Good morning, it's Friday, I'm at the Wagon. Wednesday we took the saddle pieces to the joiners, so they're cutting this radius into them. Last week we took the stanchion off the end of the wagon. So today I can turn my attention to the next job, and that is these. These straps, you've got one here, one at the end there. Their job is to hold the tank down into the saddle. Now the saddle has decomposed over the years, meaning that the tank has actually dropped. If you look here, and maybe you can just about see it on the camera, you can see daylight through a gap in the strap at the top there. So we need to take these off. So to do that, I need to undo these two nuts here, one at each corner, and then we can take them off. We can inspect the tank under the straps, remove all of the debris that's in there. I believe it's mostly delaminated steel, and we can repair all of that, fill it, paint it, prime it, needle gun it, do all of that stuff, and then we can get these off. Once they're off, additionally, we can then raise this tank back into its present position, because at the moment the tank is resting on the actual chassis of the wagon where the saddle was decomposed. So we need to raise the tank up to get the new saddle in place, and it would be a lot easier to do that if we can get these off, and then we can inspect under it. You may have seen in a previous video or a post that Ollie made where his needle gun got pinched under that, as where he's working, everything is dislodged and the strap has moved slightly. So that's the job for today. So I'm at the end of the tank wagon, and before I remove the straps from the tank, I need to create a datum so that I can tell if the tank has moved or not. We know the tank has moved because it's sat on the chassis, but what I need to be able to tell is if the tank wants to roll in any direction, whether it twists and things like that. So to do that, I am going to mark the center point of the tank. I'm going to draw a line vertically, and then I'm going to mark the center point of the chassis. If the tank is in lined perfectly down the middle of this, those two lines should meet, and if it's out by any bit, they won't meet. That's the plan at least. And then I can use that datum to measure, when I take those straps off, if the tank rocks in any direction, because that line will no longer be straight. So the first job for this morning is to mark the center point of the tank, draw that line vertically, and then I can put a spirit level up against that. If that line's no longer level, I know the tank has moved, and then I can proceed with further investigation. Okay, so you watched me find the centre of a circle earlier, and maybe it wasn't entirely clear. So you can find the centre of a circle just by drawing 4 lines. So what I'm going to do is show you how I did that and explain what it is that I'm doing. A line drawn straight through a circle is known as a chord. So if you draw two chords, you can then use those lines to establish the center of the circle, and they can be any position. They can be there, it can be there, it can be there, it can be any way, in any position you want. But what you need to be able to do is calculate the midpoint of the circle, of the chord. So just for simple maths, I'm going to draw one that is 14. So that means that my midpoint is 7. I'm then going to draw another one that is 16, and then my midpoint is going to be 8. So now if I get a square and I draw a line from that midpoint and then do the same from the other one, where those two lines intersect is the center of the circle. So you can then add another one if you want. So I'm going to do this one as 10. Oh. So I know my midpoint is 5. So that there is the center of the circle. So that's what you saw me do. You saw me draw the two lines and then draw the right angle lines perpendicular to the chords, and then that gave us the center point of the circle. And you can just keep adding chords to this and drawing the lines, and then that will give you the center point. Cheers. So you would have just seen me mark out this, and this is now the center line in the tank. So I made a small mistake there, didn't quite have my reference point in the right position, but now where those two lines intersect is the center point of the tank, and then that line there is running vertically. This perhaps isn't quite as accurate as I originally intended, but it should be good enough for doing the job that I'm doing. So now I've got that, I can put a spirit level against that line, and if this tank moves, rotates or anything like that, or it doesn't follow the line in the center there, then I can reference that this has moved in the position, and I can just adjust for any safety concerns or any stress that might be going through the tank. On to the next bit. Okay, so what you would have seen me do there is get these two nuts off. They're there, they're in good condition and they're reusable. And you would have seen me put this strap here with a ratchet strap. That's just in case this is acting like a spring. I don't know what this wants to do right now, so I'm just got something there to hold it in place in case it wants to move when I undo these two nuts. It's just going to avoid, you know, potentially damaging something else or an injury or something like that. So the next job now, get these two nuts moved out. They're painted, they're covered in paint and all sorts inside here, so might require a few gentle taps. Those two are out, and then this should be free. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but as I tap, all debris is falling out between here. Right, so So these two bolts are moved. And if you look at them, they're going up as they go back. So this wants to pull up. I expect there might be a few creaks from the tank. So it did want to move, but that ratchet strap's not under any tension at the minute. So that is stable where it is. And if I do that, you can see it rain. And there are the two bolts that I took out. I've marred them a bit as they've come out from here, but put those through a die again, and they should be good to go. So they'll go in one of Jim's butter tubs, and I will loosen this ratchet strap off, and then I will do exactly the same on the other side.
There's going to be the brake panels.
Yeah. So, as I've mentioned in a couple of videos before, we need to raise the tank away from the chassis. The saddle for the chassis has decomposed over the years, and we've found bumblebees and worms and all sorts in it. So we've planned this out over the last few weeks in terms of how we're going to lift it, and we've taken all various assessments. Is the tank structurally secure? Is the chassis safe? Etc, etc. And we've reached a design point where you may have seen on the CVR Wagon Group page where I made a device that I've named Kate. Which we're using with a bottle jack and a fixed point that we've created on the tank to start to raise the tank away from the chassis. We only need to get a 2-inch gap because in the book that we're following, we've got the schematics in, the tank sits 1.5 inches away from the base of the chassis, and the saddle is only 1.5 inches thick. So with the help of the guys here, I'm currently in the process of raising the tank up. It's about 1/2 inch lifted at the minute, and we are going to continue. And we've got, you may see that there are about 8-10 different pieces of wood that we're then going to raise the tank, and then we're going to slide them under and then raise the tank down, lower the tank down onto the wood, and then hopefully we can then continue with the production of the saddle and replacement of all the saddle pieces along the entire length of the wagon. It is worth noting that these bolts aren't actually doing anything until this wood wants to come apart. They're not, so they don't need to be tight because you actually don't want them being under tension. You want them to be loose, because if they're under tension it means that these two verticals are pushing apart, and that's not really what you want. But they're just there as a safety net.
A bit more. Yeah, you're through.
Okay.
See if any of the other bits move.
They might be a bit tight, but hopefully they will. No.
No.
You want about 4 mil, I reckon.
Yeah.
Go on, try that. Nearly there. I can see. There you go.
Alright, hang on.
That's true, there might be some flex in those wood
Yeah.
from where they've been.
Oh, just a bit more, Adam. There you are, mate. Hold on. Yes, it is now.
Beautiful. So as you can see, we've moved on a little bit. Adam has finished raising the tank. We've used those 10 pieces of wood to hold it in place. The straps are now slightly tightened, just enough to keep the tank where it is, but stop it pushing back down on the wood, forcing the wood to bow. So we're pretty happy with what we've done there. As you'll see here, Jim has been wire wheeling the buffer beam. Now, on the previous post, I put a few comments. I've asked for some comments regarding using the filler and things like that. And one recommendation was to use this Genelite rust converter, which is basically, I think, the same as Hydra 80. But yeah, this is what I've got access to at the moment. So the plan is, again, you can let me know in the comment section down below the order you do it. Some people have said clean it, then paint it, then fill it. Some people have said fill it, then paint it, and all sorts of various ways of doing it. But on this particular section here of this sort of corroded area on the buffer beam, just next to where the stanchion is, I'm going to use the rust converter on it first, and then we're going to put some filler over the top of it to make this nice and flush, and then we can put some primer over the top of that. So what we'll do now is jump into some time lapses, and we'll see how this goes. So there wasn't too many talking sections in today's portion of the work, and that's because we really did crack on with a whole array of projects today, and I think we've all agreed, the three of us, that today has been the most amount of progress we've made in one day, which is absolutely fantastic. So as you can see in front of me here, we have the stanchion that was removed previously. Jim was busy needle gunning and wire wheeling it, and I've just come along here and painted it with some rust converter. So we're going to let that dry over the next few days, and then when we come back in a few days time, we can get this painted up with some primer. We did the same on the buffer beam, and as you'll see, one of the two straps, metal straps, has now been completely removed, and that's just behind me here. So that's given Adam another job to remove the nuts at the bottom of those straps, so we can take the bits off the bottom and send them off for powder coating, sandblasting and powder coating. So on this side of the tank, we've made some absolutely huge bits of progress. Adam has just removed the last two mud guards, as we're calling them, the two pieces of metal that sit over the wheels, which means all four are now removed. All that's left to do on this side is obviously melt out the rivets as we did on the first two, and then once they're done, that is everything metal-wise removed on this side of the chassis. You'll also see from these shots here, the tank has now been raised to a level that we're happy with, and it is currently supported by the 10 wooden blocks, as you can see, as I say, from those shots. So that is a huge step. Now that the tank is no longer resting on the chassis, it means we can now aim to remove the metal sheet at this end that was sat underneath the right angle. And we have already got the right angle ready, replacement ready. So we just need to get the metal sheet as well, and then we can get them together and replace that completely. Obviously we'll have to do the same at the other end, but we can't access that till we've shuffled the tank forward a couple of feet.
So it's the end of the day. We are probably at the end of one of our most productive days so far. Today we have removed this strap. We've raised this tank by a couple of inches, and you can see that there. And I've removed some of the metal on the other side of the wagon, ready for the needle gunning and the wire wheeling, exactly like we've done here. And I've now removed the last of the dead saddle from all completely underneath the wagon, so that now we are ready to just repeat the needle gunning and the priming process all throughout.